Hello and welcome to the Bigger Boat podcast, the film show where we watch the entirety of Steven Spielberg's back catalogue. I'm Luke and as always I'm joined by my friend, a once nominee for the 2007 Big Screen Online Film Festival, in brackets in the comedy category, end brackets. It's Joe Dawson.
Hello! Thank you very much. I actually had forgotten I had been nominated for that.
You were reviewed by Mark Kermode for that, is that right?
That's true, and we've mentioned Mark Kermode in other episodes.
He's the Leviathan of film podcasting.
He sure is, and he's got a wonderful quiff too. Right, should we do some casual stuff, Luke? How's your week been?
Yeah, well thanks. Yeah, it's been alright, thank you very much. I've been on holiday. I was up in Scotland, went to the Edinburgh Fringe.
Brilliant.
Which was very good.
Saw some comedy?
Saw some comedy, yeah. You know, have you been up to the Fringe before?
No, I haven't.
No. So there's all these people flying around, like, trying to get you to see all these free shows and things like that.
Yeah. Come and see my show in this cupboard, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's free. It's free. Why is it free? Never mind. So we were standing around this area, me and my wife Julia, and this girl was handing out flyers, and she was dressed as sort of a goth. She had like dark hair, lots of makeup, and sort of came up, hadn't really looked at us, but handed us a flyer and saying, "Do you like dark comedy?" And then Julia looked up and she had a pink llama notebook around her, and she's like, looked up from the notebook, and then the woman who was flying was like, "Never mind," and then walks off.
Brilliant.
I know, we're so edgy. So, but overall, the Edinburgh Festival was, it was really good.
Brilliant. Did you get a chance to see a film this week?
I did. I saw a couple of films, but I guess I have to talk about the last film I saw, which was Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again.
Right.
Because I am a great husband.
How do you love ABBA?
No, I don't love ABBA. No, I do.
Did Julia know this, or have you just revealed it to the public?
No, I went with Julia. I didn't go on my own.
I know. But does she know that you actually dislike them? Does she think you actually secretly love them?
I don't know. I know. She knows. She knows I am completely indifferent to ABBA. Okay. It's not that I don't like them. They're fine.
Yeah, they're inoffensive, aren't they?
I am, but I'm just not the target audience for that. But the audience were loving it. There were people singing along. There were people clapping along. Some people were having a great time.
Brilliant.
I was sat next to some of them. I was also there. It was fine. There were some good bits in it. There were bits that made me laugh. Some of the songs were good. Yeah. They sort of delve a little bit, I think, into ABBA's back catalogue and B-sides. So a lot of the songs I didn't really recognise.
I have seen the first one. I saw it on TV.
Okay.
And I did find, it definitely caters for that happy sing-along kind of thing. But I mean, it did seem like it was almost like, right, stop the story. Now we'll just have an ABBA song.
Yes, why not?
And then the story carries on, and it doesn't seem to relate to the song very much. But that's just my opinion. Yeah,
there's a bit where they're singing Waterloo in a restaurant, and then for some reason one of the waiters was dressed up as Napoleon.
Right, there's your link.
I really have no idea why. But it was good. I do find that when I watch a musical, you know, for the first half an hour, I just tense up and cringe as soon as they burst into song.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. How are you? How's your week been?
Quite good. I've had this week off work. Well, I'm only a couple of days into my week off work. And, I was doing a lot of the technical stuff, trying to work out how to put a podcast online and that kind of thing.
And if you're listening to this,
hopefully it's worked.
Success!
And if you're not crying. I saw a good film, which I had heard a lot about over... I've known about it for 18 months or so, and I finally watched it because it was free on Netflix. It's called Loving Vincent.
Is that the one that's made of pictures? Everything is a picture.
An oil painting, yeah.
Is that on Netflix now?
That's on Netflix now,
I really want to watch that.
Someone showed me the trailer, I would say a good year ago. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, that's a really cool idea. And I read a little bit about the plot, and then I sat down and I watched it. Now, the story is not quite the angle on Vincent van Gogh's life that I would choose.
Okay.
The story is sort of... so Vincent van Gogh, his patron was his younger brother, Theo.
Okay.
And it follows the postman's son as he tries to take Vincent van Gogh's last letter to his brother.
Okay.
And so he's retracing all of his steps, and he's in the same environment where he had painted all of his things, and that forms the backgrounds of all the shots.
Okay.
And apparently sort of how it was done was everything was filmed with a green screen behind, and they actually filmed the actors, and they did something called rotoscoping.
Yeah.
Which is a posh word for tracing, basically.
Okay.
And so, for example, that's how they did the figure of Snow White in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. You'll notice her movement is very realistic compared to the hand-drawn dwarfs.
Sure. Okay.
But yeah, it's glorified sort of tracing.
Okay.
But this was oil on canvas and things. So
everything's painted.
Everything is painted. Everything is hand painted.
That's amazing.
It is amazing, and I mean, just to pick holes in it slightly. It's got that slight thing of like the mouth not quite syncing up.
Sure.
But getting beyond that, I mean, that's splitting hairs. I mean, it's a very impressive piece of accomplishment.
How long did that take? That
4 years.
Oh my God.
So they shot it in, I can't remember what it was, a month or something. Edited it all together, and then add another 4 years on top of that. 120 artists painting every frame.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely watch that.
Yeah, do. Check it out.
Will do. One thing I did want to mention, actually, about previous Spielberg discussions we've had.
Yes.
We've mentioned that he uses cartoons quite a bit.
Yes.
I had no idea. Did you know this? That Amblin, his production company, and Spielberg executive produced the Animaniacs and Tiny Toon Adventures in the early 90s.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
That blew my mind.
I really? There's lots of references in them to do with Steven Spielberg.
Because I was really young when they came out.
Yeah,
Spielberg is responsible for Pinky and the Brain.
He is, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I just really thought
my respect for the man. Oh.
Well, it's been a very exciting week for you, hasn't it? Because he hasn't mentioned it himself, but it has been Luke's birthday.
Yes.
And I've got Luke a couple of gifts, and I haven't given them to him yet because he said, "Why don't we do it during the podcast?" I was like, "That's a really good idea."
A couple of gifts.
A couple of gifts,
as in more than one, less than three.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm just going to get the first one now.
Oh, and you know what? I was going to say something disparaging because I thought you wouldn't have wrapped it, but you actually wrapped it.
That one I did.
Oh, the other one you didn't. Okay, fine. No. One is fine. 50%. I love it. So this is the Alan Partridge autobiography, I, Partridge. We need to talk about Alan.
I thought it was very apt.
Yes, that is so good. This is going to improve my broadcasting style.
Yes.
So much.
Just a bit of silliness.
Oh, excellent. Oh.
Obviously, we'll post a picture on Twitter.
Needless to
of
say,
your gifts.
I had the last laugh.
If you turn it over on the back, because you always have reviews, it says, very thorough.
From the Norwich Inquirer. Oh, that's very exciting. Thank you so much. I've been meaning to read this.
Okay, gift 2.
Oh, mate. It's a Bigger Boat podcast mug. Thank you very much. Available at all good stores.
That's right. It is.
Thank you very much.
Again, we'll put a picture of it.
Oh, that's really exciting. That's really cool. Thank you so much, mate.
I've actually had 5 printed. So 2 stay at mine, and the third one can be for a competition winner. Unless we smash.
All right, okay, fine. Cheers. So, we are up to the year 1979 now in Spielberg's back catalogue.
Right, yes.
Yeah, and today we're watching an interesting film. It's Spielberg's only real attempt at an all-out comedy.
Yeah,
is that right?
Say, yeah.
And the film's called 1941. So this was 1941 was described by Gary Arnold at the Washington Post as pointless at best and occasionally hateful.
Ooh.
And also by Charles Chaplin at the LA Times as the most conspicuous waste since the last major oil spill.
Ooh.
Yeah, which
that's unfavourable.
Yeah. I mean, should we talk about a little bit about the context of the movie so far? So, if you've listened to the previous episode of the podcast, you know Spielberg has just started out. He's still not 30 yet. And he's already made Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 2 of the biggest blockbusters of the 70s that have made a huge amount of money for the studios. And essentially, he's got carte blanche at this time, doesn't he?
Sure has, yeah.
He has been given free reign to make whatever movie he wants for generally whatever price.
Yeah.
Because he's almost seen as the wonder kid now. So should we talk? So the sort of the players that are involved in this. This is this was a film that was scripted, or the story originally come up by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale.
That's right.
Now these guys are sort of, well, Robert Zemeckis is seen as sort of a protege of Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
And Steven Spielberg was starting to try and help people get a bit of a start in the business as well. So he was helping Robert Zemeckis at the time try and make a Beatles movie called I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Yeah, he had quite a few struggles before hitting it big with Romancing the Stone.
Yeah,
but they're all of a very similar tone, actually. And
yes, yeah.
Even his successes, we're talking Back to the Future here. Back to the Future is a good film, but it's in the same tone. It's in a Zemeckis tone. So I'm very interested to see, because from what I've read of the plot of this film, it seems like it should work, basically.
Yes.
So I'm interested to see why it falls flat. If we can get there, if we can work out what Steven Spielberg couldn't work out.
Right. So, 1941. First, I have another quiz for you.
Oh, I wondered if I was going to get a quiz this week, because I haven't seen the movie. I'm as much in the dark as you are, beyond the tiny bit of research that I've done.
Yeah, so which means you're not going to do very well in the quiz, are you?
You're just going to enjoy this, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. It's fine. You've scored too well. So this quiz is called 15 to 1941. You're welcome. We're going up in the world, Joey. Actually, I should have written a different first question, because you've already answered this. Anyway, this is a buy. The writers of 1941 were responsible for which other 80s movie trilogy?
Back to the Future.
Yes.
There you go. And it's in a strange way, it's as if I went back in the past and answered it before and then came back.
Maybe. Great Scott. He's right.
Heavy.
One of the influences for this movie was the Great Los Angeles Air Raid of 1942. What was this?
The Great Air Raid of 1942 in a movie called 1941.
Yeah.
An air raid is dropping bombs from a plane.
Okay. No. So I will talk about this when we explain the context of the movie. Okay. So what was the name of the actor and rodeo performer who played Hollis Wood in 1941? I included this because I love his name.
I can't remember. I'm going to say John Belushi.
Slim Pickens.
Slim Pickens. Okay.
Slim Pickens.
Do you know who Slim Pickens is? He's got a really thick Texan accent. Have you seen?
Of course he does.
Have you seen?
He's a real man.
What's it called? Dr. Strangelove.
Yes.
You know the.
Can't do the accent.
We're going up here to Bear Creek.
Really?
Yeah, that's the guy who's the pilot. That's Slim Pickens.
That's Slim Pickens?
Yeah.
Love you, Slim. That's great. We are available for voiceovers and...
Yeah.
Number 4. He promised... So, Steven Spielberg promised Universal he wouldn't go over what budget? Otherwise, he wouldn't make the movie.
21 million?
$10 million.
10 million. See, that's half of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So, actually, he's saying,
Yeah.
This is a low budget.
Hold back. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm going to hold back.
How much did... Number 5. How much did he go over budget? Or how much was the production?
How much was the final production?
I will give you within 2 million.
31 million.
It was 31.5 million.
No way!
Yeah. Damn it. Very good. So you got...
God, that's quite far over, isn't it?
You got 2.
You got
2. 2 out of 5, which is not bad. And I'm impressed you got the last one. So I mentioned briefly about the inspiration about 1941. So I think overall, if you haven't heard of it, 1941 is a broad comedy that is set around the sort of hysteria on the west coast of the USA in the days after the Japanese Pearl Harbor attacks. So in 1942, about 1,400 anti-aircraft shells were fired into thin air because they thought a Japanese air attack was about to happen. What they noticed was a little like a weather balloon, and they thought that was the Japanese attacking, and that meant the army just fired anti-aircraft missiles, and the public started firing their guns into the sky over the course of a night in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And that was the LA air raid. Just panic.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
shooting at nothing.
Shooting at absolutely nothing. And that's all you really need to know about it. Cool.
Right, should we do it?
Let's do it.
Yes. Okay, we will see you shortly.
Lovely stuff.
Right, Luke, we are back. We have watched 1941.
We are back, and I'm exhausted.
Yes, me too.
After that. That wasn't much fun, was it?
It was it was a hard slog, wasn't it?
It was like the last line of the movie, Stillwell going, "It's going to be a long war." That felt like a long film.
It did. It did. What was the actual running time? Was it 2 hours?
I think it was just under 2 hours.
It feels longer.
Yeah.
It feels like a 3-hour movie.
Yeah. I can't say I liked it at all.
You didn't like it at all?
No.
There was the first 5 minutes, we laughed 2 or 3 times, and I thought, I'm actually optimistic
You know what?
here.
Yeah, that's actually true. I wrote down a few things that I laughed at. And that first sequence. Should we talk about the first sequence to start off with?
Yeah, sure.
So the whole first sequence is is a homage to Jaws.
It is, yes.
Using it's almost exactly the beginning of the film.
Yeah,
the film Jaws.
The beach is the same, the way it's got those
fences
and everything,
yeah.
which are meant to be a little bit like teeth, I think, and all that kind of thing.
It's the same actress, Susan Baccalini, and then the whole thing, she's in the water, she feels something underneath it, but it's actually a Japanese submarine, and that was actually quite funny.
It was funny, yeah. Especially that Spielberg himself was directing that.
I mean, that's pretty bold, isn't it?
Yeah.
Homage your own movie.
Yeah, sort of a little bit arrogant.
A little bit.
Self-indulgent.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yeah, it worked. That was funny.
But yes. But I think this whole movie is a bit, sort of it screams a song being overconfident, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
So, although the first sequence worked, it sort of worked. It went downhill from then on in.
Yes, it did.
Did you? So I felt this movie. This feels like a movie made out of a stag do.
It does actually. Yes, you're right.
It's like these blokes are, a bit of toxic masculinity. They are egging each other on. Let's blow stuff up.
Let's make the biggest movie we can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, women. Never mind. And it just feels like they've made this on a stag do, and it's just got out of hand, and there's been no one there to say stop.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's exactly what we were saying about Steven Spielberg. Being allowed to do what he wants after all of his success.
Yeah.
Would you say massively backfired? I think it certainly hasn't worked as a piece of entertainment. Really.
No, it hasn't. No. There are bits in there. There are sequences which are visually impressive and really well directed.
Yeah, the scale of the thing is impressive.
Yeah.
The amount of people in it, the amount of effects that go
the amount of extras, the amount of the amount of money, the amount of stuff they blow up.
Yeah,
because essentially, anytime a joke doesn't work, anytime a joke bombs, they bomb something.
Yeah,
they actually literally bomb something as soon as a joke doesn't work at all.
It's a strange thing of being like you watch the thing and you watch the movie and you come away from it and you're like, yeah, that felt big budget. That felt like they did spend 31 million on it.
Yeah.
But then you remember certain sequences, all of that stuff on the top of the sub looks very budget.
Yeah, it looks very cheap.
Very like Naked Gun or something, doesn't it?
Sure, yeah. It does look very...
It looks like a studio and they've like literally got a corner of it.
It's filmed in a weird way, isn't it?
Filmed it, yeah, they haven't even got like a proper backdrop. They've literally just filled the background with smoke.
Yeah.
Which is a very budget...
There's a lot of fog, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, like, too much fog to the extent it doesn't match any of the other shots of the actual sub in a wide shot. It
looks a bit like an Edward production.
It does, actually. It does, yeah. Because, it doesn't match. And so every time it cuts to and fro... You can't get into it as a sequence because it's like that was shot in a studio with the fog machine.
Yeah,
that's a model.
Yeah,
or that's a real sub in an ocean, and it doesn't. It looks like a sequence of individual shots rather than being a sequence that's complete, which has gone from beginning to end, which you'd hope would sort of build in humour.
Yeah, no, absolutely,
but doesn't.
No, it's I mean, each sequence. They're not very well connected, are they? And it seems to end. Every sequence seems to end with either a bit of slapstick, or something blowing up, or a sequence in which someone falls over, or something gets destroyed on a large scale.
Yeah,
and that's the only real punchline that he seems to have.
It's entirely made of set pieces.
Yes,
maybe I should define what a set piece is.
Yeah.
Usually, a set piece is.
Like a free kick or
those big moments in movies where basically you can tell, it's blowing up the bridge or whatever in the Bridge in the River Kwai. It's that sequence.
Yeah.
It's basically where they put all of their money, and the rest of it is fill of characters talking and things.
Building up towards that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this is literally those big moments put back to back for 2 hours.
Yeah. It's all killer, no filler, isn't it?
It is. It is absolutely sensory overload, isn't it?
So, and actually, it's interesting you say sensory overload, because actually one of the first screenings, so Spielberg showed this at a cinema that he showed a lot of his films at, I think it was in Dallas, Texas, where he did his first ever preview, and everyone really liked the first scene, the Jaws scene that we talked about. Everyone was laughing about that. You thought, yep, I've got a hit on my hands. And then throughout the rest of the entire film, people had their hands over their ears because it was so loud.
Oh, really?
Spielberg talks about this himself. He's like, it was, and he admitted himself, I think I just blew too much up. There was so much noise that people couldn't take it in the cinemas, and I can completely see why.
Yeah, it's unrelenting.
And that's not even just the set pieces as well. Any dialogue seems to be shouted.
That's true.
Yeah,
yeah,
which really bugs me.
Yeah.
Just talk normally. It's only the general who doesn't shout.
Yeah. So I remember mentioning in the introduction, sort of like to see if we could work out why it hasn't worked. I did write down a couple of things.
Yeah. So I wrote down a few things as well. So what did you think?
I think the reasons why certain things didn't work was I found myself asking, do I care about the characters? Do I care about any one character? And the truth is I don't care about a single one of them. I honestly wouldn't have cared.
Can you remember any of their names?
Wild Bill,
yeah, that's it.
Because he was quite a good...
Because he kept on saying his name.
Yeah, he kept saying his name. And it's like, well, he's as a standalone character, I can imagine he kind of works on paper. Because, he's got his quirks the way a bit like Groucho Marx does with a big cigar.
Yeah, which is lit all the time, yeah.
And, all of that kind of stuff. So if he was the centre of his own movie surrounded by other more sensible people and he wasn't blowing stuff up so much, maybe he's a character that I could watch him in a movie again.
He was my least favourite.
I really
hated him.
Oh,
I really annoyed him.
Like, a lot of his stuff fell flat, but I thought, I imagine if you read that as a script, I could see how that. Yeah.
This is the one who was played by John Belushi.
Exactly.
He was one of the biggest comedy stars at the time. So
yeah. Well, as a character, I thought he kind of worked, but again, as part of the whole movie, it falls flat. And then I also said, so who do we care about? Nobody, because we don't really get to know anyone, because there are far too many characters and they all just have one-liners, which each of them also falls flat. And then I found myself also saying, because this is absolutely crucial, I think, in a screwball comedy, in a madcap world, you need at least one sensible anchor.
Yes.
So
you need a straight man.
You need a straight man. So something that sprang to mind would be something like, because Luke and I are both big Arrested Development fans. Michael Bluth is the sensible one amongst the madcap family and the other characters are doing strange things. And you think it's fine. Michael Bluth sees this from our point of view, and that's the way you enter this world. It's the same with Benjamin in the League of Gentlemen.
Yeah.
Without Benjamin, it's just a madcap place which has got no bearing in reality.
Yeah.
And so he's the one that you care about.
Yeah.
And you care about what might happen to him. Mm-hmm. And since I don't care about any of the characters...
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
None of them are sensible. And I mean, quite literally, I can't get this through enough, I don't think. Literally none of them are sensible.
Yeah, they all make terrible decisions.
Yeah.
So I thought as well, with the people that they cast as well, a lot of the main comedy, they cast a lot of comedians, a lot of SNL performers at the time, Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, John Belushi.
Oh, they're all big names.
They're all big names. But I'm not sure the script was there. I think they just said, if we put these funny people in our movie, they'll be funny. Yeah. They'll improv in a way.
As if like just seeing their face would be funny enough.
In like in sort of ways like a Judd Apatow film where they put a lot of funny people in and they encourage them to improv, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But I think they because they might be having too much fun on set.
Yeah, possibly.
What often they say about a film is if you're having too much fun making the movie, it's going to turn out to be a terrible movie.
Yeah.
So
there may be some truth in that.
There may be some truth in that. Yeah. So it just maybe just the characters themselves being
Yeah.
performed by improvisers
Yeah.
may not have worked.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe they all just try to overshoot each other too much.
Or try and snowball. It all snowballed on top of each other, and
And then at the end of the day, it just didn't cut together.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we talked before when we talked about Jaws, we talked about sympathetic characters and creating empathy.
Yeah.
And to think, it's strange because it feels almost like Spielberg should have started with this film and worked towards Jaws as a goal because it was much better. But actually, it works in terms of his career. It's actually the opposite.
Yeah.
He started very, very well with Jaws and things.
Yeah.
And you now look back and think, wow, what a good job he did with that. Creating empathy for your main characters, and you care about what happens to them, and that's what creates the suspense. Which also works for a joke, because if you care about the build-up, you should care about the punchline because you didn't see that coming, but actually it's relevant to what's been building.
Yeah.
This is literally like build, full flat, build, full flat.
Yeah.
If it builds at all. I don't know if it does.
No.
And then I also
which is already ironic because that's exactly what's happened to the set as well. They build it, it falls flat.
Yes, that's true.
Flat. Yeah.
That's true. I hadn't thought of that. It's a visual representation of what we're experiencing.
Absolutely.
And then we talked a lot about, with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the fact that Spielberg was making a nice personal movie that was sort of elements of his own life and things. But we also covered Spielbergian themes.
Yeah.
Now, there's no real Spielbergian theme, and so I found myself saying, what is the theme here? And the truth is, I think the theme is quite literally like general mayhem and panic.
Yeah.
Which is not strong enough to sustain a movie, because there's no story in that.
No, exactly. Yeah, I agree. So this sort of leads on to a question that I wrote down. So why do you think he made this film? Why did he choose this script to make as his next project?
I think because Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg were friends.
Yeah.
And there is no getting away from it that Zemeckis... I feel like Spielberg was right to see the talent in Robert Zemeckis.
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah.
And yet there are elements to this which you can see in Roger Rabbit, you can see in Back to the Future.
Yep.
But the whole thing gels so much better because you care about the characters, and they basically have their straight men. They have Bob Hoskins is kind of a straight man in
Roger Rabbit,
and Marty McFly is really quite a grounded character.
Yeah.
He's kind of the sensible one, and Doc Brown is kind of the crazy one, and so is Biff. Yeah, I just find myself again sort of saying, the theme is not strong enough, it's not personal enough.
So I had some theories. Do you think that so in the 1978 Oscars, Close Encounters got beaten by Annie Hall, so he got beaten by a comedy, Woody Allen. Do you think that maybe thought, maybe I could do comedy?
Oh, possibly.
In order to do that.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, I think I became very aware watching it because we had mentioned Slim Pickings and I had said, that's Dr. Strangelove. Mm-hmm. I then found a few other little elements.
There's a bit of that, isn't there?
To do with Dr. Strangelove, and I thought okay, if you look at Dr. Strangelove, because it is funny, and it is a satire, but it is very serious about the threat of war and being killed by ignorant people in charge.
You can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Exactly. But in that film, you definitely get a building sense of tension.
Yes.
As it gets closer to them dropping the bomb.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's built around one thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Around one idea.
One idea rather than loads of ideas that they've just thrown at a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you can get nice mounting tension. And so mounting tension means you can potentially get huge laughs. Yeah. Because you're like, oh my God, it's really going to happen.
Yeah.
This is just all madcap, and you don't know what you're trying to save. You don't know who the innocents are.
No, exactly. No, yeah. Yeah, which is key in storytelling, I guess.
It is,
yeah.
So, we mentioned Slim Pickings because he is the pilot in the bomb plane.
Is he the one who rides the bomb down
He is.
He's the one who rides the bomb at the end, okay.
Yeah. And so in this film, he's the guy who, as I say, he's got a thick Texan accent and he puts his boots into the toilet and things.
Tries to poo out a compass.
He does.
It's as entertaining as it sounds.
Yes. They sniff the bottle and say, yes, it's prune juice.
Yeah.
And That's it.
And comedy ensues. When he was trying to make this movie, so when it was pitched to... People were quite cautious about it, but it had come at a time when studios had started to pull their resources together. So Columbia and Universal came together. But as we said in the quiz earlier, Spielberg says, you know what, I promise it won't go over $10 million.
And it feels like they started that way, because maybe they did like the submarine shots that we were talking about that look a bit tacky first.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Yeah. But so they said, and I won't make it if it goes over. But it went up and up and up. And on set, they had T-shirts that said the exact quote from Spielberg: "I won't make this if it goes over £10 million." And each week they crossed out the number and put a higher number on.
Really,
Spielberg? Yeah.
Wow.
Because the shots the stuff that Spielberg was trying to do during this, it is impressive.
It is weirdly, yeah.
Yeah, like when Bill Kelso crashes in his plane down through Hollywood.
Yeah.
So you film that crash 3 times, and each time that crash cost $400,000, I think, per crash, and he did it 3 times. The sequences, some of them seem entirely unnecessary. Although impressive, the tank sequence in the paint factory.
Yes. See, that was one of the things that reminded me of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yes. Like that was a really good sequence.
It was.
But so expensive, surely. Yeah. I mean, the house falling into the sea. Just everything costs a lot of money.
Yeah. The Ferris wheel falling off the pier. But again, we think that looks
that's a miniature.
It looks like a miniature, but I mean, it fooled people in the 70s, I'm sure, and it's sort of like it you can kind of tell how it's done a little bit now, but I feel like it, still very expensive, and a very expensive model.
The miniatures they make. So by miniatures we mean like small models. In order to try and film something like a Ferris wheel falling off into the sea, they just made a very small version of it and filmed it on a small level.
Exactly. Usually the trick to do those kind of special effects is because big things move slower. An elephant moves slower than an ant.
Yeah.
You slow it down. So you shoot it at a very high frame rate.
Okay.
So normal film runs at 24 frames per second.
Yep.
If you shoot something at 48 frames per second,
yep,
it's going to look like, when you watch it back, half the speed.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So
that's usually what they've done. So that's what it looked like they had done in a couple of those shots. Is it looked like a miniature because the other things aren't relative in size. So like the water droplets are too big against the Ferris wheel, but it had been slowed down to make it seem big and things.
But it still looked really impressive, didn't it?
It did. Yeah. It definitely would stand up if the film was better. But because you're not really invested in the story, you're on the outside sort of analysing this stuff as you watch it, I think. Yeah.
Did you notice the tribute, where Back to the Future reference? Well, when the guy who, the arsehole soldier, who is played by Treat Williams, the one who's almost trying to assault the girl, and pursue her the entire thing, very misogynistically. Yeah. When he says he hates eggs throughout the entire thing, and then eventually falls out, as part of the end of a set piece, ends up going over into a load of eggs.
Yes.
Isn't that like a I hate manure situation with Biff Tannen?
I wrote. I hadn't really quite made that connection with the eggs, but yes, I was like, oh, that's very.
I just wrote down I hate manure. Yeah, because and that's definitely will be repeated again by Robert Zemeckis.
Yes, and a lot of the stuff in the dance hall.
I like that sequence.
Yes, you did laugh at when he starts swinging the girl around a lot and stuff.
Because she looks like a doll. She just looks like a rag doll. I quite like
Again,
that.
It looked like it could be something from like Naked Gun or Hot Shots or something.
Yeah, that exactly looked like that. Yeah.
She looks she does. She truly looks sort of inflatable or something.
Yeah.
But because obviously it's a musical number and stuff, did you know Steven Spielberg had thought about turning it into a musical around halfway into production? Yeah. Okay. Because it was so over the top.
Halfway into production.
Because it was so over the top, yeah.
Just put some ABBA in.
Yeah. Here Spielberg goes again.
Yeah, exactly. I can't think of another ABBA pun. Damn it. Never mind. Carry on.
Well, someone dressed as sort of Napoleon was about the only thing that was missing from that film.
Yeah. It was ridiculous, wasn't it?
It was ridiculous.
But it did feel that sort of like that 1950s big Hollywood number
Yes.
at the end. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. See, this is what I was originally going to sort of say about that sequence. It feels like it's a precursor to... Remember, there's that musical Anything Goes sequence at the very start of Temple of Doom?
Yes, yeah.
And she's singing it in
that's
Cantonese or whatever.
Yes,
Where,
you're absolutely right.
It is the
does
song
feel like that.
Anything Goes, but it's in a different language.
Yes,
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. But it sort of has that feel. It reminded me of the end of Blazing Saddles. You know, when they're all I work for Mel Brooks, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And it's all mayhem,
it's all
being
mayhem
piled in
everywhere.
And it's also very reminiscent of the end of, and I have only seen the film once, Blues Brothers.
Yes. We mentioned that in Sugarland Express as well, didn't we?
Yes, with all the cars, constant car chase.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did.
And this film stars both Jake and Elwood Blues, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi.
It does, yeah.
A year before Blues Brothers came out.
Was that a year before?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I had a problem with, doesn't really hold up today in terms of its gender and race equality.
No, certainly not. Did you also notice, sticking with a little bit with Spielbergian themes, the use of Dumbo?
Yep, yep, absolutely.
Keeping with the theme of using Disney clips in his movies is something we've noticed from Sugarland Express.
With an absent father.
With an absent father.
Yeah. What else have I written down? There's a rising sun over LA after the Japanese leave, which I thought was a nice little sequence.
Yes.
As a nice little... Because there's just flashes of really good stuff in there. And also I also mentioned that you can see that Spielberg's clearly a fan of silent cinema. Despite the fact this is the noisiest film I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
There is a lot of silent cinema tropes in it as well.
Yeah, there are.
Just with the slapstick nature of the comedy.
Yeah.
And...
so something which we usually talk about a lot with Spielberg movies, or have so far, is the use of music.
Yes.
Now, I really didn't feel like the screwball action of what the actors was sort of doing in terms of choreography. I don't really feel like it married with the music very well.
Okay.
Something which sprung to mind of a good example of sort of action screwballness coming together with music would maybe do something like the loading guns sequence in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels to that Greek music.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, so it's building towards something. The music embellishes what's already going on.
Yeah.
The music felt almost sort of like tacked on. It didn't really feel in the action to me. It didn't feel like it was helping it.
Yeah, no, sure. No, I know what you mean. I didn't really notice the music during it, to be honest, because the noise levels were so
loud of all the gunshots and all that stuff.
Honestly, unless it was only right at the beginning and right at the end where you notice the typical John Williams score.
Yeah. Most of it is sound effects completely overshadow the music, doesn't it?
I mean, it's a cartoon, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
There's even at the end of the paint factory, he goes through an Acme door.
Yeah, that's true.
It is like a Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah, but the trouble is when it's with human beings rather than drawings.
Yeah.
Humans just can't move as fast as cartoons, and I think that adds to this whole falling flat.
Yes.
Feeling. I feel almost like they should have gone the other way and almost made it one of the things which help make silent films seem cartoony.
Yeah.
Is that they literally run at a faster speed, don't they? Because they used to wind their both their cameras and the projectors by hand.
Yeah.
So during a built-up sequence of a chase or whatever, they would literally get the guy on the projector to run the film faster. He would wind his hand faster.
Yeah.
And the pianist is there in the room going ding 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 much faster.
Sure.
And it
so what you're suggesting is Spielberg did this as a Benny Hill sketch?
I feel like he didn't do it enough like a Benny Hill sketch because Benny Hill did what the silence did and sped his camera up.
Yeah.
And you can only do that if it's actually kind of a silent movie because there's too much talking to enable him to do that because then the
speech wouldn't
match at all.
No, sure. Did you notice when Bill Kelso has his plane for the first, lands his plane for the first time and goes to the petrol station.
Yeah.
It's the same petrol station as in Duel, with the same.
Oh, really?
The same actress running the petrol station in Duel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's the same one.
Okay, that's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
But overall, so I guess we should talk quickly about what Spielberg thinks of this at all.
Oh, yes. I'd be interested to know.
I saw so he did these interviews called Spielberg on Spielberg, and he talks about himself, this being a big shot of hubris, because he felt he was untouchable. He could make anything. He had the Midas touch. He could make any movie turn to gold, and all of his ideas were great. And then this was the first shot of him being told, because it got such a critical backlash.
Yeah.
Of him being told, actually, you're not the perfect filmmaker yet. You've still got a lot to learn, and this movie is not good. And that was a big slice of humble pie cooked in the oven of shame, set at gas mark, egg on your face. To quote the IT crowd. So this was a real slice of humble pie for him. So he had the full trust of the studio as well. He had ample budget, and he went over time and over budget again on this. And I think this is where he first felt the true repercussions of that.
Yeah. Well, there's this whole thing about sort of like creativity sort of needs its limits.
Yeah.
And then, you're trying to be creative outside of the box, but the truth is the box is important.
Yeah.
Just to make some really strange analogy.
I know what you mean, because often you talk about these days of like, oh, you could feel a lot of studio interference in this film, in this new blockbuster, and that's a negative thing. But this can be maybe what happened with complete freedom.
Reign. Yeah.
Someone acting as an auteur.
Quite literally anarchy, actually,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And it turns out, you do actually need rules and structure. Because Spielberg's actually quite...
Alright, you're square.
Yeah, thanks. But Spielberg's actually quite good at... he's quite a structuralist,
he
usually.
Is now, yeah.
He's very good at knowing story beats and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's just so odd that it went completely out the window in this film.
Absolutely. So overall, I think this was probably like a necessary failure.
Yes, I probably agree with that.
For Spielberg to have.
Yeah.
In order for him to build on that in the future, learn some lessons, and then end up... Now we finished the 1970s of Spielberg, going into the 1980s, for him to make some of the most important movies of his career. So yeah, entirely necessary, I think.
Yeah, I think
to
so.
go through this. Yeah.
I think so too, because despite its mania, you do see little elements of other movies to come. I'm thinking of sort of the tone of some of the scenes of Indiana Jones, for example.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, it's really good that he made this and sort of ironed them out in Indiana Jones, and we may not have Indiana Jones as we know it now
if it wasn't for this.
Because he might have gone too over the top.
Yeah. True, absolutely. What I might do is leave you guys with another review from Neil Gabler at Weekly News. He said, "What 1941 proves finally is that the Japanese didn't have to worry about destroying Hollywood. All they had to do was wait years and let Steven Spielberg do it for them."
Ouch!
I know, that was my favourite.
Wow! Yeah, what a great line to end it on.
So thank you for listening, guys.
Yes, we hope you enjoyed this one.
I do encourage you to watch it, actually, because it is interesting.
It is interesting. We rented it. It's not on
the streaming services that we could find. If you've got a lot of time in your hands and
if in fact,
and you hate yourself. But anyway, we look forward to seeing you next week, where we will be talking about, and I'm very excited because it's the first Indiana Jones movie. It's Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I'm so excited about because finally we've got a film I've actually seen.
Yeah, very excited too, because this is now getting on to our generation.
Yes.
References and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Big Boat Podcast. You can also email us, Joey, on
thebiggerboatpodcast@gmail.com. Yeah.
So please get in contact with us. And also, if you could give us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would be really good because it will help us get our profile up.
Yes, thanks very much.
All right. We will see you next week. Bye.
That was in unison.